Sports fans of Lincoln and Logan County, this beautiful Saturday morning, March 19th, 2011, you're listening to the Cheap Seats right here on 96.3 WLCN. My name is Cameron Kurtz, and the gentleman sitting to my right this Saturday morning and every Saturday morning, the multi-talented, my co-host, Mr. Josh Komnick. Josh, we're out here at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Lincoln today for the Special Olympics Polar Plunge Kickoff Party. And, of course, our Cheap Seats program today brought to you by State Farm agent Rick Ham. And, Josh, a lot of the festivities out here at the KC starting up. The Polar Plunge set to take off here in a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's I got here just a tad after 8, and they were carrying stuff in. The place is all decorated up, and as you said at the pregame kind of to the Polar Plunge that's going to happen today. So come on out, even if you're not going to take part in the plunge. There's a lot of festivities going on. It's a great organization. A lot of things going on here out at the KC Hall. And these guys are having a lot of fun already, and going to be a nice day for the plunge, a nice sunny day so far, and I hope everybody can come out and join in the festivities.
Well, the tables are being set up. It looks like they're blowing up balloons right now, and WLCN will be here all day to bring you coverage of the Polar Plunge. Josh and I will be with you for the next hour or so, and then after we're done, we will send it over to Jim and Jeff number 2. They will take over for us during the 10 and 11 o'clock hours, and we will have coverage of the Polar Plunge all morning. But Josh, let's go ahead and jump right into our segment for this morning. First, we're going to turn to the Illinois High School State Finals for Class 3A and 4A going on over at the Civic Center in Peoria this weekend. Over on the Class 3A side, it was Rock Island defeating Chicago Brooks by a score of 55-36. Centralia, which came out of that Springfield Super Sectional, defeating Morton there the other night. Well, they went ahead, and they're going to be playing for a state title today. 59-55, Centralia, a winner over North Chicago. That third place game taking place at 12:15 today, in the championship set for 2 o'clock.
Yeah, it was a kind of sloppy in the 3A contest. You know, there was you got to think, if the Railers had been playing the best at that time, it almost looked like they could have held their own with any of the teams. Of course, Rock Island, a very talented team. They've got a Randall Head, Kason Randall, going to Stanford, and he was the guy maybe the everybody wanted to see in the 3A. And Rock Island didn't disappoint, 55-36 over Brooks. But really, in that Centralia North Chicago game, there's no reason, if the Railers, of course, Morton was playing well, and we're not taking anything away from them. But if we were playing at our best at that time, you got to think the Railers would have been in that game with any of those, really any of those 4 teams in the last 4 for 3A.
Over on the Class 4A side of action, it was Chicago Simeon over Glenbard East, 56-53. And Josh, you and I were talking about it a couple of minutes ago. Simeon is one of those teams that just seems to reload every year, regarded as one of the best programs in the state up around the Chicago area. They have a lot of their talent making it into the collegiate ranks, a lot of their players going on, playing at the Big Ten level. A winner yesterday over Glenbard East by 3.
Yeah, and I was able to be at that game, plus the Normal Community. I got a relative that starts for Normal Community, so I was up watching him. Of course, they didn't come out victorious over Warren. Warren beat Normal 55-43, but I watched both games, and man, you can really tell. I thought a big difference between the 3A schools and the 4A. The size, the speed was just. I thought a step above. When I looked out on the court last night, I saw Warren had 6'8", 6'7", and 2 6'6" kids at one time, plus with a guard that stood about 6 foot. So the size was just overwhelming, I think, for me, just to, as I'm used to watching the Railers play in most of the 3A schools and that kind of thing. But Simeon, boy, you talked about it reloading. They've had Derek Rose. Now they've got Jabari Parker, who's maybe the best sophomore in the nation. They've already Dukes after him. I think everybody in NCAA basketball wants his services for the round ball next year, and he didn't disappoint last night. I think 16 or 18 points, really a good game. Simeon got up 15-0 at one point, and Glenbard East, a really good team. They got a kid going to ISU, and they really played their tail off. Maybe one of the teams that I've seen all year play the hardest was Glenbard East, and they gave Simeon all they wanted. And just for my Normal fans and my relatives, didn't come out pretty for Normal last night.
Well, Normal West will be playing for the third place game tonight at 6:30, and that Class 4A championship game set for 8:15. That's basically how it went on the hardwood for Illinois high schools this weekend. Got a lot of great news coming out of college basketball. March Madness is upon us. There, that second weekend getting into the tournament here. A couple of upsets there and a lot of happenings and updates going on in that NCAA tournament. Josh, probably one of the biggest stories of the week has to be the upset of Louisville the other night. A 4 seed being knocked off the other night. A lot of people filling out their brackets, and the so-called experts of bracketology had Rick Pitino's Louisville squad making it to the Sweet 16. Some people even had them making it to the Elite 8, and with a couple of sections making it even to the Final Four. Regardless where they favored in your bracket, an upset nonetheless.
Well, it's got to be an upset. I saw a stat on ESPN last night, 5,956,000 and some change filled out brackets on ESPN.com. Not one person is correct so far. So you know there has been, you got to think some guy that works at home or has had the couple days off is just filling out brackets like crazy just to get that perfect bracket, and that person couldn't even do it. So you know there's a lot of upsets, or at least a big upset, when over 5 million, almost 6 million people can't get it right. But you talked about it, Morehead State beating Louisville. A lot of people picked that Richmond-Vanderbilt defeat. And also Gonzaga. Gonzaga was a team that a lot of people thought would give St. John's a run for the money, and they certainly did. Gonzaga is going to be taking on BYU now. You know, now Morehead State, a 13 seed, is going to be taking on Richmond, a 12 seed. That doesn't happen very often either.
No, it doesn't. And not too many times will you see those 12 and 13 seed teams play each other this early on in the tournament. The way that the brackets are set up, it's designed so those top seeded teams will play the lower seeded teams to kind of help win out. And Josh, it was probably said best last week when we were at Jake's Furniture. The furniture guy mentioned the reason why they do that is they're afraid that some of that better competition might give them a good game and might have an upset. Obviously, that's a case in point that's been proven this week.
Well, it has been, and we'll talk a little bit about the Big Ten and, of course, Illinois' big win a little bit later. But, really the number 1 seeds didn't have a problem in the first round. You know, that was most of them all were 20-18 to 20-30. Even Duke had a 40-some point win.
Sure.
But they've got a resurgent team now with Kyrie Irving coming back. But a lot of the other games, man, if you were an underdog, and it seemed like they were right in there. You know, 5, 6, 3-point games, a lot of close games, a lot of good basketball going on, and it's going to continue over these next 2 days and really all throughout the tournament, I think, because maybe Duke has kind of bump themselves up as maybe being the favorite now with their point guard coming back, but I think it's really wide open for any team, especially the number 1s or the number 2s can have a chance at cutting down the nets.
You're absolutely right, Josh, and a couple of those things we will mention as we get going later on with the show. So that's just kind of a preview. We're going to be talking college basketball quite a bit today. We'll also discuss a little bit of action, Major League Baseball. Spring training is still upon us, and we're itching our way closer to opening day. We've also got a couple of local stories that we'll cover later on in the broadcast. Out here at the Lincoln Knights of Columbus Hall for the Special Olympics Polar Plunge, Josh and I will have some of the folks representing the Special Olympics on with us here in a couple of minutes, and some of the crew that's going on getting this pregame party set up for the Polar Plunge. We got a great morning on tap for you here. It is the Rick Ham sponsored Cheap Seat Sports Open Line this morning from the KCs on WLCN and WLCN Online. For now, we're going to step aside and grab our first commercial break of the broadcast. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. And we're back out here at the KCs this Saturday morning for the Special Olympics Polar Plunge and our Cheap Seats program sponsored by State Farm agent Rick Ham. This morning, Cameron Kurtz and Josh Komnick back out at the KCs. And we're joined by a member of our broadcast team here at WLCN, the voice of Lincoln High School football, Mr. Bob Verderber. And Bobby V, thanks for being out here with us, and see you're sporting the Polar Plunge t-shirt on there today, and a lot of great things that they've got going on out here.
They do. It's the 3rd annual, and it's a great benefit. Law enforcement helps out with the Special Olympics and all the great volunteers that come here, and especially want to thank, as you said, the Knights of Columbus for letting us entertain this event here. We load up on the buses, I guess around 10 o'clock, and they take us out to the ski beach, the old ski beach at the Lincoln Lakes, one of my favorite places around Logan County. And we go out there and we take the Polar Plunge at 11 a.m. and a lot of good people involved, as I said, in the Special Olympics. A great one of the sporting programs here in Logan County.
Bob, how long, you said this has been the third year going on now, and how have you seen this event grow? And how many years have you been volunteering here with the Polar Plunge?
Well, this is my third. I'm 3 for 3, and it just grows and leaps and bounds. I'm always amazed how the parking lot is just jam-packed. It looks like a mini Woodstock as we head out there to the lakes, and you know, a great view out there. It's a little chilly. It's my son lives in California, so I say it's not quite as bad as the water in California, say in November. I mean, that's where the Navy SEALs train, so it's a little hint of Navy SEAL training out there at the Lincoln Lakes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect weather for this one, and Bob, you mentioned here the Casey's have been very, very charitable in their hospitality today, and a great place to hold events. A great way to have kind of this kickoff party and to get the ball rolling here. And Bobby V, while we got you on here, let's go ahead and talk college basketball a little bit. Josh and I kind of gave a little bit of an anticipation to our listeners there of what we're going to be talking about here. We were talking about the upsets that happened earlier on this week, but let's take a look and turn our attention now to the Illinois game. They'll be taking on Kansas, a 1 seed versus a 9 seed. Illinois, that big win last night over UNLV. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. It's crazy because back-to-back games now, Coach Weber's going to go up against former Illini coaches, and it was sort of stepping stones for them. I believe the gentleman that coaches for UNLV went to the pros for a while, and then he came back, and then of course the coach out at Kansas won a national championship after he left Illinois, so they've kind of used this for a stepping stone, but I'm glad to see Weber advance to the second round for a shot at Kansas. So that should be an interesting game. Earlier in the year, I believe Illinois gave Ohio State a good game, so anything can happen in the tournament.
Yeah, Bob, you've watched basketball for a long time, and you study it. You've been on the radio. You watch it on TV. What's the biggest thing in college basketball that you see has changed from when you, maybe watching your brother play and things like that, or even you playing too? And what's the difference between now and what it was back then?
Well, it's the one and done. All the good players, they just march on. You look back, say, to the guys that played at Michigan State, the Fab Five, and say the Dream Team with Hakeem Olajuwon and Drexler, or you go back, say, when in my age, when UCLA was playing, these teams couldn't beat those teams.
Right.
Because after a year, it's one and done, and you're gone, and you're off to the pros if you're going to make it. So it's still a good tournament. I mean, it ranks right up there with all the great events, the World Series and everything. It's and especially this weekend, the 72 to 78 hours.
Well, yeah, that and also the three-point line has had to have a huge advantage. It just hardly seems like anymore that 15-foot mid-range game is, basically thrown out because it's either a dunk, a layup, or a three-pointer anymore.
Yeah, there was a young man the other day asking me how good of a shooter you were. And I said, well, one time I saw Josh warming up. I don't know if you remember it. You were hitting bank shots from out of bounds, from like the NBA range. And that's what it's come to today. Yeah. Guys can bomb away from that distance, so it opens up the inside, as you said, and then you've got the deadly shooters on the outside. If you've got a good guy on the inside, say if you would have had a Chuck Badurba or a Norm Cook on the inside, had you on the outside, you're unstoppable in a scenario like that.
Who's your pick, Bob, with, you've got Ohio State, which you just talked about. You've got a shooter on the outside with Diebler. You've got the Sellinger kid inside, who's probably, like you said, a one-and-done type of guy, maybe the number one pick overall. Who's your pick to cut down the nets for the tournament?
I'm going to go with Coach Krzyzewski again. I always go with the defending champ. Usually if they're coming back and they've got the new kid, the kid coming back that only played 8 games, and he's a point guard, so they're going to have 2 point guards out there. But my mother, of course, she's the one that helped create a lot of Lincoln High School basketball. Yeah. She's going with Kansas. So we've got Duke and Kansas in the championship.
She's going against our guys to our next matchup. So who's she going to? Is she an Illinois fan? Is she going to root for Kansas?
Well, she'll probably root for Illinois, but she's competitive.
If Illinois doesn't win,
she'll take Kansas.
And that leads right into your trivia question today, Cameron. As far as Bob was talking about back-to-back, Duke just did it. Well, has done it yet, but they did do it before. They've got a chance to do it this year, and you've got a trivia question that Bob cannot answer because I bet he knows the answer because he's sitting here. Even if he didn't look at the paper, I bet he knows the answer.
I can't see that far, Josh.
But let us know that trivia question, and callers can call in 648-5510 for a free Little Caesars Pizza if you know the correct answer to this NCAA question.
Here is this college basketball trivia question for this Saturday morning. And, of course, when Josh was talking about Duke, they went ahead and were repeat national champions there in the early 90s. And looking to do it again this year, of course, being a #1 seed, they have that ability. But we're going to go back a ways. Let's go back in history a little bit. And I need the name of the first college team to win consecutive national titles in the NCAA Division I men's tournament. And of course, this is since the tournament began in 1939. I need the first team to win consecutive national titles. 648-5510, the number to call in if you know it. Free hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And
Bob is writing down the answer.
Bob's writing down what he feels the answer is. 648-5510. If you feel like you know the answer and you want to go ahead and give it a shot, go ahead, call in, be our guest. And also, phone lines are open. If you guys want to call in and talk a little bit about the Illini, or if you want to talk about who your picks are in the NCAA tournament, phone lines are open. We'll be more than glad to take your calls. But Josh, kind of while we're on the same school of thought here, you take a look at these brackets and the #1 seeds that are still remaining and the competition that they're going to be playing and the field of teams that are still out there makes it for very interesting in the tournament and shows just how much depth there really is. We do have a caller. Caller, go ahead. All right, his guess is UCLA. That is not the correct answer. It is a very good guess, but that is not the correct answer.
Was my guess.
Well, that's what Josh's guess was. And so we do have another caller. Caller, go ahead. You got an answer for us?
Yeah.
Yeah, UCLA, of course, when they had that great run back there in the 70s, and Bobby V, you hit the nail right on the head there when you were talking about, you know, those kinds of teams. They couldn't run with the teams that are out there now, and just how much the game has changed and how the shooting and scoring has really made a statement, and that's become the precedent nowadays.
But that answer just a little bit before that time of UCLA.
Right. You know what's ironic about Johnny Wooden? He became the coach of UCLA in 1948. He didn't win his first championship until '64. Nowadays, he would have been fired.
Oh yeah.
They fired him.
Yeah, if you don't win or at least get into the tournament in 3 years, you better pack your bags for a new job. But no, it was a little before that UCLA time when they rattled off so many championships. And caller, go ahead. We got another call. You're in the cheap seats.
Was it Kentucky?
It is not Kentucky. That is also another very good guess. Unfortunately, that is not the answer. Go ahead, keep on calling, guys. 648-5510, the number to call in if you feel that you have the correct answer for our trivia question. And Bobby V had to leave us there for a second.
Might be a water main break.
That's right. Cell phone is ringing on Bobby V's end this morning. But Josh, kind of while we're still going with this, and while we got the calls coming in, let's just go ahead and stay right on topic here. UCLA, a team that many people have been their pick on our trivia question today, taking on Florida, a #2 seeded team. That game, of course, being played at 1:45 this afternoon. UCLA a 7 and Florida a 2. Florida was one of those teams who did repeat as national champions there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a really good game. UCLA, a lot of people didn't get to see them play. They didn't get to see the Pac-10 play a lot during that time, but this season. But they're a very capable team. They're big inside. They've got good guards, and that's exactly what Florida has too. They've got a couple guys inside. They've got guards that if their guards are hitting the three-point shot, Florida is a really good basketball team. UCLA could give them a chance. I like Gonzaga today winning over BYU. And, I think there's so much parity. And let's talk about the Big Ten, guys. Maybe a conference that was picked to be the best. And then, of course, the Big East overcomes that with all the teams that they have. What a battle, what a conference that is with, how many teams got in. 11 teams got into the tournament. But the Big Ten, two losses over in the first rounds. Michigan State and Penn State take a loss to UCLA. And I believe, Penn State... Penn State lost to Temple, but Ohio State, Illinois, Purdue, Michigan blows out, a big blowout win, and Wisconsin, just that steady team. right now, those teams right here look like they have a good chance to go on. Now, Illinois has got a tough game, but Wisconsin's got a good chance. Purdue's playing well. Michigan may be the hottest team in the Big Ten right now.
That's true, and you got to also look at Connecticut. They, you know, it's all about winning on the road.
Yeah.
They won the Hawaiian Classic 5 on the road, and then they won 5 games at Madison Square Garden 5 nights in a row.
Yeah.
So they could be the shocker of the tournament right there, the Connecticut Huskies.
Yeah, and Syracuse and Marquette playing for, what, the second or third time at least. 2 teams out of that Big East. You've got Arizona taking on Texas, going to be a tough matchup for the Horns. And that Temple San Diego State, a lot of people have liked San Diego State all year, kind of that school out of the no-namer conference, gets a 2 seed. And I've got a chance to watch them play, and man, they're tough, scrappy. Of course, the old coach that used to be at Michigan when he won the championship with Michigan is now there, and they've got a stacked team. Bob, it could be maybe the most wide-open tournament I've seen for a long time.
You're right. Any team can win. It's a lot of last-second shots already in the tournament, and I think we're going to see a lot more. Not to change the subject, but what about 3A basketball? That's old school. That's black and white TV.
Yeah.
Rock Island and Centralia, the Orphans
That's
Club.
right.
My daughter lives down in Centralia now, one of my daughters, and all day long I kept giving her the score quarter by quarter, and it's like back in the old days when Centralia or Collinsville would be playing Chicago Carver or Chicago Marshall. But I got off the subject there.
No, that we hit that earlier, and we were talking about that 3A versus a 4A, and man, was there a size difference. I was able to go to the 4A last night, and they were putting guys out there 6'8", 6'7", guys bringing off the bench 6'7", 6'8", and this 4-class system has really not benefited the 4A because they weren't going anywhere anyways.
Right.
So they're playing the same competition that is, and man, well, there were some 2 good games last night at the 4A.
I didn't catch those.
Yeah, Simeon was a winner, 56 over 53, Glenbard East, and then Gurnee Warren beat Normal Community 55-43. So the Centralia going for a state title today against Rock Island.
And the sign coming into Centralia, they still claim they're the winningest high school program in America. And of course, that was all before the 90s. I think they may have had a tournament team in the 90s. The last team they had in the tournament was in the maybe 2004 or something, but they've got a new coach down there, and he's turned the program around. Of course, Lincoln played down there last year, and that's quite a facility down there. Yeah,
I was able to go down there. By far the best high school gym I've ever. I mean, it's almost like a smaller Shirk Center. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And what a tradition they have going on. Likewise, as Rock Island with. One of their better players now, Kason Randall, a Stanford commit. So a lot of talent in Central Illinois, a lot of talent in this Illinois basketball state finals this weekend.
648-5510, the number to call in if you want to chat it out with us this Saturday morning. Also still looking for an answer to that trivia question. Once again, here it is. I need the name of the first college team to win consecutive national titles since the men's Division I tournament began in 1939. Need the name of the first team to win consecutive national titles. We're going to step aside, take another commercial break, and when we come back, Josh and I will be breaking down a little bit of the stories that are coming from the local side of the sports action. We may even talk Cardinals and Cubs baseball a little bit. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Rick Ham-sponsored Cheap Seats program. We'll be right back. And we're back on the Cheap Seats this morning out at the KC's in Lincoln for the Special Olympics polar plunge kickoff party that we have, and we're joined by Ryan Curry this morning. And Ryan, we had you on there a couple of months ago. You were talking about the Special Olympics program and everything that they do for the Lincoln and Logan County community, and a great event that you guys got going on out here with the polar plunge.
Yeah, we this is our 3rd year doing it, and last year we raised over $27,000 all in one single day. We had about 172 plungers come out last year. We're hoping at least the same amount. I know our dollar amount's going to be a little bit higher, I think. We just got word. The people from Walmart just came out, and they had a live remote with their headquarters today at corporate. And their CEO of Walmart's going to match every dollar that they bring in.
Nice.
They've raised $11,000, so that means Walmart Sparks are going to bring in over $20,000 for the Lincoln Polar Plunge, which is phenomenal.
Sure.
That's great. That's excellent. And it's glad to know that organizations out in the community are willing to chip in and benefit and help the cause out here. Ryan, you've got looks like a lot of people out here this morning that have been coming in and out all morning. The volunteer and support that's going on out here. Kind of talk about the support staff and some of those volunteers.
Yeah, we have a committee here that's been meeting for ever since last October about getting this polar plunge done, and we have about by the end of the day we'll have about 45 volunteers come through here and help put this this plunge on. We've got people from lunch to registration. We have bus monitors. West Lincoln Broadwell's bringing all their buses out and actually bringing their drivers as well. They're going to bus everybody from the Knights of Columbus out there, and everybody's just pulling through. A lot of these people showed up last minute and just said, hey, I actually have the weekend off, so we're going to come out and help you for a couple hours. So the support that we have here in Logan County for Special Olympics is just great. I mean, anytime that we need anything, people are coming in herds. I mean, they're coming out to help financially, come out and volunteer their time. So it's great here in Logan County for volunteers.
You talk about not only Walmart, but talk about the KC Hall, Lincoln Lakes. You've talked about your volunteers. Name some of those other people that you know, if it's financially, if it's use of their building, if it's use of their water, if it's anything that can be, not only with the polar plunge, but all the activities. I know you're involved in so many things with the Special Olympics. You know, a shout out to those people.
Oh yeah, and hopefully I don't leave anybody out, but right here for the plunge we got the KC's Hall. They've got a bartender. We've got her serving drinks that start at 10 o'clock. The KC Hall donated their time. They also donated 20 gallons of chili for this cause. Excuse me. We've got Monsanto is a huge supporter for the Lincoln Polar Plunge. They match everything that the plungers go out and raise. So every dollar they do, Monsanto will give back. The Lincoln Lakes Association, they've opened it up 3 years in a row. It's a private beach, and they've allowed us to go out there. They cleaned it all up the other day. Dan Fulcher with the EMA, he's got people out here to make sure all the personnel's out there in case somebody gets hurt. We haven't had any problems in the past, but he's got plenty of people out there in case something happens. So we have the list could go on and on. We've got so many supporters of this in different ways, as far as giving gift baskets away, going out to eat at restaurants. They've given us money off out there, and it's just great. I mean, everybody in this community just loves Special Olympics here. So
you talk about the polar plunge, and it's not just a Lincoln and Logan County thing. How many are? Is it statewide? Is it nationwide? How did you get first wind of, you know, 3 years ago you decided, hey, I found out about the polar plunge, and let's start it here in Logan County?
Well, there's 19 of them through the state of Illinois, and they all go within about 3 months. The first one starts up at Lake Michigan. It's the Mega Plunge. It goes off, and you go in every hour on the hour for 24 hours.
Wow.
So there's thousands and thousands of dollars. You've got Chicago Bears players, Chicago Cub players getting teams together and doing that. So they have a lot of big names up there and a lot of money raised to start it off. We are actually the last one in the state of Illinois, and they've had plunges. The only time they do not have a plunge was last weekend because we had our state basketball tournament up in Bloomington. But every other weekend there'll be one or two of them each weekend through the state. So Joni Keys has had one in Decatur for several years. She's been our area director, and since we have such a large capacity of athletes that we take to all these games, we usually have around 50 athletes that compete in all these sporting events. So she thought, you know, maybe we should ask Lincoln to help do some fundraising for our area, because this money stays locally, but it doesn't come into our Logan County Special Olympics bank account. We don't pay for anything when we go to all these competitions, as far as food, all the medals, everything that they used to charge us $30 an athlete just to go to these events. Because of these fundraisers, we have not written them a check in at least 12 years.
Cool, good.
That's great that you have the support and you're able to get that generosity and those contributions coming in. Some of the sports and some of the activities that Special Olympics helped support over the last couple of years, kind of talk about some of those activities a little bit.
As far as our sports that we
Yes.
have, we just finished up basketball, and that goes from October to the middle of March. And why I'm saying all this, we are in desperate need for coaches. So anybody out there listening who wants to, you don't have to know anything about the sport. We mainly, if you have some knowledge of the sport, that's great. But we're mainly needing chaperones plus coaches.
Sure.
So we've got basketball. That's our longest one. We're getting ready to do track and field in here. We'll start in practice next week out at Lincoln Community High School track on Sundays. So if you know anybody that wants to go out and help us out with track, that's probably our shortest. We'll be done by Father's Day weekend. We just practice once a week, and we have 2 meets, one in May and then one in June. After that, we'll start softball up. We usually have about 12 games with softball over the summer, and we get that wrapped up, I think, usually end of August and 1st of September. And then we also start bowling in August, and then that will be done in late December. So there's lots of things going on out there. That's just what we have locally. As far as the state, there's so many things going on with the state, from snowshoeing to, bocce ball. There's so many things. It's just we don't have the coaches to be able to get all those teams together.
Sure.
That's right. Ryan, while you were on your rant there a little bit, we had that sounder. That means that we do have a caller. Caller, go ahead. Yes, that's right. Lincoln College is going for playing in the national tournament this week. We were actually going to get to that in a couple of minutes, but kind of while we're on the subject here, Josh, let's go ahead and talk Lincoln College basketball. When we had Coach Kurt Whiteman on there a couple of months ago, he was talking about the competitiveness that this team brings, and you have some of those players with the experience from last year's team of that national championship team that bring kind of their expertise of all the years and experience that you have to this program this year.
Well, it seems that they play their best basketball when this tournament takes place over in Danville, and then just following it, you've been able to watch it actually on the internet. I've caught a few games on the internet. Haven't been able to head over to Danville, but watched a few games on the internet. I think you can go to njcaa.com and you can file through some things. Go to Division II. It brings you up a Danville site, and you actually can watch it there. But Lincoln College was a winner over Erie, New York last night, 90-72. And then they play tonight, I believe, at 7:30. They're going to be taking it on Mott Junior College at the national title game. So we talked about with Bobby V those back-to-back titles. Lincoln College might have one tonight.
They're going to most definitely try for that back-to-back title for the junior college side of it, and Lincoln College is one of those programs that is well feared and they're well respected, not only in this area but also in the entire nation. During my time down at Southeastern over the last couple of years, you hear about people talk about Lincoln College, and it's just you kind of sometimes forget on the junior college side just how competitive these teams are. Lincoln College has a lot of those expertise and a lot of those players who have the experience coming in. You've got Lincoln High School graduate Louis Schonauer, who puts up good numbers each and every time he steps on the floor. Normal Community graduate Kyle Turpin, who's been kind of one of Lincoln's go-to guys as far as scoring and putting up those numbers. And the list goes on, and I know Coach Whiteman and his staff are very proud of this bunch.
Caller, are you still there?
Went ahead and lost that caller.
No, good, but we thank you. We were going to get to that, but yeah, it's nice to have 6'11" Kyle Turpin headed to Florida State to hold down the middle in that tournament. It looks like, from what I've talked to assistant coach Corey Farmer, that the Lynx have a real good shot of bringing home the title, and we want to thank the caller for that, Ryan. Real quick before we let you know, we know you got a lot to do today, but can the people still come out today if they haven't signed up, or and come out and donate, or can they come out and still do the plunge, or anything that you may need help? A volunteer listening, and like you said, nice day, got the day off. Can they still come out and help out and do some form of help for you guys?
Yeah, we'll never turn away volunteers. We've got here in just a little bit. We're going to start open registration here at 10 o'clock. We're going to have several people coming in. You can still come out and actually do the plunge. It's a minimum of $75 to plunge. You get a sweatshirt and lunch with that as well. If you're wanting to help somebody out and donate some money, stop back out here. We'll make sure it goes to a good cause. We'll put it on somebody's plunge list there. If you want to volunteer, come on out. The last bus, we're hoping to get everybody out of the Knights of Columbus Hall by 11:30. The plunge is at noon at Lincoln Lakes. You cannot drive out there because of parking situations. There's just enough parking out there to get the buses and emergency personnel out there.
Right.
So come on out to the Knights of Columbus. We'll make sure you get out there. We're hoping everybody will be back by 12:30, 12:45 to have lunch. And it's a very short thing. I mean, there's a little bit of waiting around at the beginning, but as soon as people start going in the water,
they don't stay in long.
We do not stay in long. So it's a pretty quick thing, and we've got heated tents out there for all the plungers to change back into warm clothes out there. We're going to have about probably 300 to 400 people out there on the beach here in about 2 hours. So come on out, and we'll get you out there.
That's great. Ryan Curry, we thank you, and we thank your staff and everything that you do for the Special Olympics. Stay tuned. We're going to step aside, take another commercial break. There's still more to come here on the Rick Ham sponsored Cheap Seats program. We'll be back in a few minutes.
And we're back here at the Cheap Seats Saturday morning sports show, and back here out at the KC Hall. And I've got, of course, Bobby V. Cameron has taken off. He's had a commit to get to real quick. And the head honcho is what Bobby V calls her. Joni Keys is with us right now. But first of all, we've got a caller for the trivia question. Caller, go ahead. You're in the Cheap Seats. Cincinnati. No, Cincinnati is not the answer. The correct answer, anyway. We've had UCLA, we've had Cincinnati. I'm gonna throw just a helpful hint out there. It was a school in Oklahoma.
That's right.
Oklahoma.
Cincinnati did win back-to-back, and that was after Oscar Robertson had left the Bearcats, but because he was there, they had good recruiting classes
coming after that.
Yeah, so they won a back-to-back.
That helps out when you've got one of the best ever right there. But, call in 648-5510. It is not UCLA or Cincinnati, and the school is out of the state of Oklahoma. Joni, thanks for joining us here today. We're out here sponsored by Rick Ham State Farm for the Polar Plunge pregame tailgate party, and it's been partying here since 8 o'clock. I got here at 8, and people were setting up. We've got balloons everywhere. People are starting now to file in. Registration takes place here right now. Listeners out there that are still wanting to get in, they can come and register and go through all the steps to take the dive.
Absolutely. We encourage it. Basically, all you have to do is bring in $75 in pledges or donation for Special Olympics, and we'll get you signed up. We'll get an armband on you and get you one of our great sweatshirts. They're a hot commodity today, a hooded sweatshirt. And we got the shuttle buses running. It's beginning at 11 o'clock. That'll be going down to the beach. And we're going to have a brief opening ceremony. It's about 11:45. And at noon, we're going to have the mayor down there, and he's going to be firing off the starting gun, and we're going to be plunging in groups about 10 to 15, and they're going to go in that cold water. You know, don't let the sun fool you today, because I tell you what, that water is, last I heard, I'll have to radio down there, but last I heard that water's right hovering around 40 degrees.
Yeah, I heard Mr. Matson, Roger Matson, I know, is a resident out there, and he said he'd put the thermometer off the boat today and said it was right at what you said, 40 to 50 degrees. So still, Bob, a cold plunge. You said you're one of the plungers. You get in there, but you don't stay in very long.
You don't stay very long. A lot of great rescue personnel are there, too, in case you do get in trouble.
Absolutely. We got the dive team on hold there. They're in the water waiting to rescue. But, you know, fortunately with this event, we've never had any issues. People have a lot of fun at it. You'll see people out there in costumes, and we have lots of good prizes to give away. So it's just a fun, unique event. Brings in a lot of money for the Lincoln Special Olympics and for the athletes that participate in Special Olympics.
Well, it's a great cause, no doubt. There's a lot of athletes in Lincoln and Logan County that take place in the Special Olympics. I know they have a great time. How long does it take to plan this thing? I know you're one of the maybe one of the coordinators, or as Bobby put it, the head honcho out here. But how long does it take? And there's a ton of effort. Ryan talked about you guys meet once a month, once a week, those kind of things, just to get everything ironed out to where it's running smoothly on when game day or dive day takes place.
Right. You know, it does take a lot of effort. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes logistics that have to happen. A lot of people have to be communicated to. A lot of facilities have to be in place. A lot of agreements have to happen. All of those things. So yeah, we start planning this back in November. And we have monthly meetings, and then we go 2 meetings a month the last few months up into the plunge. So, we got to get our volunteers lined out. We got to, get some sponsorship. We've got to basically get the community informed that this event's happening, what a fun event it is, and what a great cause it's for. So, and then the KC Hall is very involved in the food aspect of it, along with Walmart. So we've got to get that all coordinated with, how many are we going to feed, and how many participants are we going to have. So we're watching the online, registrations to know how many sweatshirts to order ahead of time, and all of those little logistics go into it. And then, getting the dive teams coordinated. And Dan Fulcher's really awesome at getting all that lined up, and so we're really glad to have their support on that.
And Joni, you mentioned Dan Fulcher and Matson, and of course Ryan Curry was on. I look over here, one of my longtime friends, Marcia Warner.
Yeah.
You look around this room, and all the great Good Samaritans around Lincoln and Logan County are here today to help out with this program.
Absolutely. I couldn't thank the volunteers enough, because without the volunteers, an event like that just doesn't happen, it just takes people that are committed and people that are going to give their time away from their families for an event like this. So we greatly appreciate all the volunteers that are out here today, and we just really couldn't do it without them. And all the community support is just phenomenal here in Lincoln.
And talk about if somebody's not able to make it today or was not able to volunteer this year, give us some phone numbers or an internet site or an email or some way that if our listeners out there now say, hey, you know, that thing is kind of neat, I'd like to maybe volunteer, or I'd maybe like to take the plunge next year, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, we have a website. We keep that updated. Our headquarters office is in Bloomington Normal, and our website is www.soill.org. And so that's our headquarters site. You can actually click on there and get our local Area 10 Central Illinois Special Olympic website with all our events coming up. And you can call the area office, which is located in Decatur, and it's 428-9255.
Great, and that sounder means, guys, we've got couple more phone calls for the trivia question. Caller, go ahead. You're in the cheap seats, getting ready for the polar plunge.
Hello?
Hello.
The Oklahoma State Cowboys?
You got it. The Oklahoma State Cowboys was the first team in the NCAA era to win back-to-back national titles. That took place in 1945 and 1946. Caller, can we have your name?
I thought I recognized that name.
I could tell, yes. If anybody was going to get it, I bet Bob that was who called your phone. No, Bob had a water main break, so we're not saying that. Barbara Bowlby, you are the winner. What I can do is probably just give it to a relative of yours that's sitting real close to me right now, and if he doesn't eat the pizza, he'll deliver it to you.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Barbara.
Good
thanks
job,
for your
Barb.
call. Yeah. And bye-bye. Yeah, that was the winner. Oklahoma State in 1945 and 1946 was the first team ever to win back-to-back national titles in NCAA basketball. Back to Joni Keys. Maybe just some of your responsibilities out here real quick while we've got you here and before all the big crowd. There's a big crowd coming in already, but what other things, have you got everything in place? And we talked about the bus services from West Lincoln Broadwell. We're able to bring their bus services. Anything else that needs to be known for our listeners or anything else, not for this year, next year, or the years to come?
Well, we encourage spectators and family members to come out from the community who's never seen the event to come out and watch it. It's free of charge to spectators, and we do ask, though, that they ride the shuttle buses down to the beach area. There's just not a whole lot of parking down there, and we don't want to get any vehicles stuck. But no, this is an awesome event. We want it to grow. We want, once you do the plunge, I think Bob will attest to this, you kind of get hooked on it, and it's just a fun thing. And so they'll go tell their mom, their dad, their uncle, whatever, or the teams. If they're kids, they'll tell their friends and get a team together. So most plungers, when they leave here, they say, wow, that was awesome, and I'm going to get a team together next year. Or, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this every year, and it's going to be a bigger team next year. And we've already planned our costume out for next year. Next year it's on St. Patty's Day.
There you go.
So, it's a combination St. Patty's Day, Mardi Gras sort of.
That's right. We'll just make it a big party and celebrate.
And what a beautiful place to be, the old ski beach at the Lincoln Lakes. It's just worth it to go out there to see the divers go in. And
it is.
Yeah, and then you come back here and you have an award ceremony, and just to see
lunch,
the smiles on the faces, it's all worthwhile.
We got a lot of athletes out here, so the folks can see where their money goes and how happy they are to receive this money, and they'll be helping to hand out some prizes and some towels down there on the beach, and so the beach is beautiful. I've been down there. The setup is awesome. They've raked all the beach, and it's just a great place to have it.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, Joni, we want to thank you for letting us maybe kick off this party that's going to happen today here at the KC Hall. And we want to thank especially Rick Ham, State Farm agent, located at 628 North Chicago Street in Lincoln. Phone him at 732-6211 for all your insurance needs. He was the sponsor today to kick off this Polar Plunge, this great event for Lincoln and Logan County. All of our Special Olympic athletes come out and take a look at it. As Joni said, I was able to do my first St. Jude run, and I'm not a big runner by any means. I don't run long distances, but my wife talked me into it. I didn't run the whole way from Lincoln to Peoria, don't get me wrong, but I did run quite a bit. And when you get to the end thing and that thing, the spectacle that is there, like you talk about the award ceremony and things back here, it makes you want to come back. You want to tell your friends about it. You want to do more and more. You want to train harder, as for my instance, to run farther for a great event and a great cause. Bobby, you're going to be taking the plunge today. I'm sure you're an athlete running a lot now, and you've had to train for this plunge, I'm sure.
You have to train for it, mostly mentally. Yeah, because that water feels like razor blades on your ankles when you first go in. But once you go under, come back up, all the laughs and applause and everything, and some good rock and roll music playing in the background.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Well, Joni, thanks for coming in. Thanks for sharing. We want to thank you for doing a great job of coordinating a lot of this and the help of coordinating all the volunteers, especially the volunteers that come out. We're seeing some of the athletes, some of the volunteers, some of the guys that are going to be taking that plunge coming in now. We want to thank you for having us out here.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's going to do it for my co-host Cameron Kurtz. I've got my second co-host today, Bobby V. Verderber, the voice of the Railers on the Lincoln Railer football. Bob, thanks for checking in. We know you're going to be doing this activity today, and you're a big sportsman, so it's perfect to have you on today.
Well, thank you very much, Josh. You do a great job, and thanks for coming out to the Knights of Columbus today and helping us out.
Yeah, check back in 96.3. Jim and Jeff number 2 will be out at Lincoln Lakes, I believe, getting ready to have the big party. The big festivities that going on there. We're going to try and get number 2 to get in the water. We've got a suit, we've got the life vest and everything for him. So Bobby V is going to try and wrestle him into the water. But for everybody here at the Polar Plunge, we want to thank you for listening today. The Cheap Seats, Rick Ham State Farm for the sponsorship. We will be back next week at the Christian Village in the Congregate building. That's going to do it for the Cheap Seats here at Knights of Columbus. We'll see you down the road.